It's 100 degrees. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your 100 degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea. Sip this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your 100 degrees, shining bright. Set the stage, Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea. Sip with me, spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling 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 and sipping this tea.
What's going on, Diamond Gang? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, David. Hi, Joan. Guys, I am streaming from Rumble and YouTube at the same time. So shouts out to my Rumble family. Shouts out to my YouTube family. And definitely shouts out to the replay gang. If you are not subscribed to The Great Spills the Tea, I don't know what you're waiting on. You guys know I cover celebrity gossip along with politics, political topic, war updates. I also, on Rumble, guys, I have the great reactions where I react to viral moments. If you're not following me, follow the great reactions. Guess what, guys? I started another channel on Rumble, and it is the Great Politic Rants, where I basically upload different rants on what's going on, okay, with the war and other political topics. So now I have 3 over there. 3. So if you're not following The Great Spills the Tea, The Great Reactions, and The Great Political Rants, I don't know what you're waiting on. Hit that follow button. And if you're not following me on YouTube, The Great Spills the Tea, I don't know what you're waiting on. Hit that subscribe button. Hi, Ken. Thank you, baby, for coming. Thank you. So, guys, we got a lot to get into. It's kind of, I want to say, kind of shaky right now as far as it being quiet. Okay, I truly believe that within a matter of days that this can get ugly between the U.S. and Iran. But for now, it's it's a little quiet. Of course, Trump is still with his rhetoric, with the threats and what he can do and what he's going to do. Today, I found out that we are just about out of our long range missiles, so it's getting bad for us. We cannot afford to get into any other conflicts right now at all. But we will also be talking about, guess what, guys? You're not going to believe this. And I found this out today, too. Hold on. We are crowdsourcing. Do you guys know what crowdsourcing is? We are crowdsourcing because we are getting just that desperate where we're trying to come up with ideas and ways to deal with Iran. Okay? Military analysts, other troops. Now, you know it's bad if we're crowdsourcing. So we'll get into that as well. But we're going to be talking about Trump and the latest developments in the Middle East, Iran updates, what's happening now. Of course, guys, you know I got to hear from all sides. Okay. So we'll be hearing from Iran. They said there are no talks. Right now, they are strictly speaking with Oman, and they're trying to get the straits open with safe passage. They're not thinking about President Trump in the U.S., okay? We'll also be talking about a couple other things, just the back and forth rhetoric and President Trump basically tacoed out again. So, which, I mean, I knew that was coming. Some think it's market manipulation, you know, but it could be for a number of reasons. It could be market manipulation. It could be that we're out of munitions. It could be that this war is unpopular. It could be all of three. You know, two things could be true at the same time. I always say that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my screen up and we're going to get straight into it, guys. I found something that I want you guys to see. Bingo. All right. I'm good. I'm clear. Hey, what's up, EJ? Thank you. Thank you. Please, guys, hit that like. That's so important to me. Okay. Please hit the like. That helps keep me in the algorithm. It helps the replay gang. Please, please, please hit the like. If you would like to support the channel, it is $ the great spills the tea. You can also support the channel super chat, super sticker on Rumble. You can it's rants. It's a different name for super chat, super stickers. It is called rants. Okay. And you can also tip me via crypto on Rumble. Okay. But a simple like, if you can't, I'll take a like. Okay. Thank you, guys. So, guys, Iran has always said that they are in favor of a deal, but they want a fair deal. Okay. And I think this has been the issue and will continue to be an issue as far as peace talks, because the Iranians feel like the U.S. is trying to dictate, that President Trump wants to dictate. He doesn't want to see diplomacy. He wants to be able to tell them what to do. But let's get into it. And I brought this clip was in the beginning of this war, and when they had decided to finally start negotiations. Take a listen to this, guys.
Yes, we are in favor of a deal, but a fair and balanced deal. The problem is when Americans, the current administration, talk about a deal, in fact, they want to dictate what they want. And this is what we experienced. As recently as 2 months ago in New York. We are ready for negotiation, but not for dictation. We are ready to go for a deal, but for a fair and balanced deal, not a one-sided deal.
How prepared are you if there were a follow-on Israeli attack on Iran?
Now, Diamond Gang, I'm going to be honest, and I said this for a while. I truly believe it will come to this, that Israel and Iran will eventually exchange fire with each other. I believe that, and I believe that is coming possibly soon.
We are even more prepared than the previous war.
Can you elaborate? In what way are you prepared?
Our missiles are, in a better position, quantity-wise and quality-wise.
And another reason why I brought this clip, pay close attention, because he's going to mention Russia. Okay?
We have learned many lessons during the 12-day war. We have learned, we understood our weak points, and our points of strength and Israelis' weak points. They have worked on all of them, and they are fully prepared, even better than the previous time. It doesn't mean that we want war. As you know, the best way to prevent a war is to be prepared for that. The Russians helped us a lot during 12 days of war. And after that, we have been engaged in more cooperation than before. And this is why I'm telling you that we are even more prepared than previous war.
What would the
Okay, so he brought up Russia, and he said that Russia was assisting them. And I've said this the entire time, that Russia and China, they have been assisting Iran since the beginning. That clip was in the beginning, back in March. Okay, so they've been assisting Iran this entire time. But Diamond Gang, what would the U.S. winning in Iran looks like? Trump has tried threats, bombing campaign, sanctions, you name it, he tried it. But for me, the Straits, it plays a huge part as far as a win on both sides. When actually, in reality, this was not even an initial goal of ours. You know what I'm saying? But it became a goal. Okay. I believe that in order for us to even get anywhere, Trump would definitely have to make some type of concessions to the Iranians. Okay? I truly believe that. In order for us to move forward, in order for talks to start and to get to the enriched uranium, they got to sit down and they have to get it together. At this point, it looks like they're going back to the MOU. I don't think that's going to work. I don't. But let's take a listen, Diamond Gang.
United States have to do to win in Iran?
How are you defining winning?
You define it. That's why you get paid the moderate buck.
Well,
I don't like her definition. However, the second part of her explanation or her opinion, I could understand that part. But this initial answer, take a listen. It's kind of off.
put it to you this way: there aren't great options for the president. If the one option would be to declare victory again, say that the Ayatollah is dead, Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, and the U.S. will come back at
Bingo. She said Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, and she went to say that the U.S. will come back at a later time if they choose. I didn't like that part because we have to deal with what's going on right now. Okay. Again, we all know he tore up Obama's deal, not putting one in place, and they have been enriching ever since. Okay. They were at 5%, and now, from my understanding, they are at 95%. So we have to put something in place because there's nothing there. No paperwork, no framework, no nothing. But let's go.
Iran should they try to get a nuclear weapon again, in his estimation. The question becomes, will the stock market embrace that thinking, particularly when Iran now retains control of the Strait of Hormuz? He could continue to escalate such that he believes he reaches a point. And he signaled, by the way, in his comments earlier today at the cabinet meeting, that this is what he's thinking, that he can keep escalating to the point that either the regime, it sort of tips the regime out of power, or it becomes an intolerable level of destruction for them that they start to capitulate. He could continue to do economic sanctions, or he could try to come back to the negotiation table. But in doing so, he would have to make some kind of concession to the
that part, when it looks as if that we could be potentially talking soon. They're not talking directly. They're talking indirectly. And of course, Trump had a tantrum because he wanted everyone to believe that they were. Okay. But multiple Arab states are involved. So he's talking to multiple mediators. He's not talking directly to Iran. But let's go.
Iranians in terms of how they read that memorandum of understanding vis-a-vis the Strait of Hormuz. And so I think I don't know what winning is, but I also don't know what is a viable option that gives that creates an exit ramp or an off ramp for him to declare some kind of victory.
Let me give you a traditional definition of winning in this context, which would be defeating the Iranian regime, seeing its replacement or its overthrow by Western-minded Iranian, small d, Democrats. Could that be done without large numbers of troops on the ground?
No.
Could it be done?
That part, to escalate boots on the ground for a win that's not guaranteed, would be insane. We already went over this. They have alone 90 million people in that country. Okay. Their military consists of 900,000. There's no way that we can win this one.
With troops on the ground?
Maybe. It's uncertain. We're talking about a country of 90 million people that, as long as the United States has been discussing and preparing for war with Iran, the Iranians have been preparing and discussing the possibility of coming under threat from the United States.
That part, they have been preparing. When we get into the most recent threat and what they were willing to do if Trump would have went through with his threat, it's quite scary. They have capability.
So it would be a formidable task. It would require hundreds of thousands of troops, a major U.S. military commitment, and politically a commitment from the United States to endure economic costs through that time for something that they take months or years, if that's the end state.
That fear factor has...
That part. Now we're going to get into it because Iran does not fear our escalation dominance. Do you know how many countries feared our escalation dominance? Iran, they are getting more they're just out. They're just, what's the word I want to use? They're getting, each time that they target, they, strike us, those attacks, they're getting more and more vicious. Okay, let me say that. But they don't fear us no more. They have taken over the straits. They are literally attacking our allies, and they are decimating, destroying our military bases over there, to the point where some of them we won't be able to go back to. Okay, and that's what they want. They want to get us up out of the Middle East. But let's take a listen.
Now been broken. The Iranians have demonstrated they're willing to enter into a cycle of violence in which America used to have what they call escalation dominance. America has the ability to dominate any escalation militarily all the way up to potentially a nuclear war. I'm not saying that's what America was going to do. I'm just saying they always had that ladder, and so they could always escalate that dominance. We can kill leaders, we can bomb indiscriminately, we can do whatever we want. The Iranians no longer have that fear when they make their calculation as to what they want from the Americans. They've taken over the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing is opening. They're attacking our allies despite the fact that the U.S. doesn't want them to. They are capable of attacking Israel if Israel attacks Iran. And now they're killing American soldiers in bases that we're not even very honest about that exist in those countries. We don't even talk openly about military bases in Jordan. That calculation means there's a new dynamic emerging in the Middle East, and I think it puts America on a much weaker footing. So
that part is putting us in a much weaker footing. But right now, Iran is trying to get those surrounding states, Gulf states, to respect them as a power. Like they're going to be a powerhouse when this is all said and done.
You can arguably say that America's involvement in this Iran war has now made us, our allies, much weaker in the region than where we were the night that this war began.
Now, some believe that the U.S. should just leave, while others say stop with the threats. Just if you're going to go hard or go home. Okay, is what they're basically saying. You know, if you're, it's just like stop it. You know what I mean? Majority of the Republicans still want Trump to go forward with attacks. Okay, the war is unpopular. A lot of people would prefer for us to just leave. Okay.
Cut your losses, Mr. President. This has not worked the way you wanted. If you want to declare victory, the best way to do that is either A, stop now and leave, and leave Iran where it is, because the more you fight it, the more you're going to inflict pain on everybody in the region. That's option A. Or option B is act like you mean it.
Listen, his credibility is shot. Again, we've been down this road at least 8 times. Okay, he's threatened them. It's the same cycle. Wash, rinse, repeat with President Trump. Okay, he says he said this would be worse than World War II. He said he was going to bomb the SHIT out of him. He said a lot of things. And what does he do? What does he do? Come Monday, over the weekend, we got a deal, and he started announcing things that he hasn't even discussed with them at all. Guess what, guys? Oil went down 5% when he made that announcement. So
hit Iran with everything they have. Let the region absorb Iran's counterpunch, which everybody's deathly afraid of, and is convincing Trump not to do anything because they don't want to get hurt. But the only way to deal with Iran is either go away and stop, or go all the way and really flatten them.
let me read this. Okay, David said nuclear weapons for Iran is guaranteed in the future because America has no power over Iran. Iran has the knowledge and allies that can provide the blueprints for nuclear weapons. China, Russia, North Korea. I believe that. I think that it is, if nothing else, I think that it is important for there to be some type of deal put in place in regards to the enriched uranium. I do. Of course, you know, guys, I believe that he should never have torn that up, the last deal, without putting anything in place. And because he did that, this is why we are where we are right now. Okay? So that is very important. That deal, putting something together. If we were to walk away, we just can't walk away and not, you know what I mean? So he has to put some type of framework, some type of deal together. But I've always said this, when it's all said and done, Iran will ultimately have some control over the straits. I believe that. That's a done deal. It will never go back to what it was pre-war. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. All right. Now, of course, Trump took the Truth Social. He put his post out. I have agreed for the future benefit of the world, and likewise, the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran, to cancel the attacks, subject to be able to rapidly make a deal. That's his problem. He wants to rapidly make a deal. That is not going to happen. And he said, Get to work, everybody, and get it done. Thank you. But he basically said that he's been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries to hold off on any attacks. Guess who called? It was Saudi Arabia. Okay, the prince. Outside of that, Iran said that they did not speak to President Trump directly.
Hey, this is breaking news. President Trump just announced that while the United States is, quote, locked and loaded to carry out strikes against Iran, for now they are calling off and holding off on any escalatory strikes against Iran, giving the opportunity for diplomacy to play out in the Middle East. Also hearing from other countries around the region that were trying to warn President Trump away from escalating the situation. Follow for the latest updates on Iran.
If you look at
All right, let me stop it right here. Now, there are concerns. Since he has done this multiple times, people are calling him out. Okay, everyone is calling President Trump out at this time, because this has been a pattern. The threatening, the calling it off, then announcing things like I said that has not been discussed. This is his pattern. I'm gonna say this. Our allies is tired. Of course, we are tired. And believe it or not, they are divided in the White House. A couple of them they're tired as well. He has been given solid advice and he has not taken that advice. But let's get into it.
the President Trump's past statements over the course of a couple of months, we can see that there is a sort of oscillation, sometimes a threatening and very threatening rhetoric from him, and sometimes a rhetoric based on the closeness to a deal or negotiations being very successful. So for Iranians, it's like the same old story, but still we know that the public mood here is highlighted by a sense of frustration and uncertainty pertaining to the future as the country stands before a dilemma between confrontation and diplomatic engagement. And also there is a less and less hope when it comes to potentiality for a diplomatic engagement, as people are seeing that the country
At the end of the day, he got to stop. He has to stop if he's serious about any type of diplomacy, he has to stop. He got to stop posting on True Social. I've never seen anything like this in my life. A president actually dealing with negotiations via social media. It has to stop. That's the only way, with the threats and all. Believe it or not, guys, that was part of the MOU. The threats.
was in the middle of a process of diplomacy while it faced campaign of unprecedented airstrikes, which not only targeted the military bases or political buildings, but also when it comes to civilian areas, civilian infrastructure, it also included targets in that regard. Meanwhile, we know that there is a sense of resilience and defiance among a segment of the Iranian society. The rally around the flag impact is still out there. And last but not the least, we have to keep in mind that the society is dealing with excessive economic pressure caused by years of sanctions, domestic mismanagement, and of course, when it comes to war, impact is quite tangible.
Let me read this. Iran no longer has trust in America and Israel after being attacked twice while in negotiations with America and Israel. And I've said that multiple times. Multiple times. I don't know why he thinks that they're going to be able to put anything in place in the next 48 hours. That's insane. Insane. But let's take a listen to what Marco Rubio had to say. Pay attention and pay attention closely. Marco Rubio did acknowledge that both the U.S. and Iran have some pretty strong red lines. We know that. Things that both sides won't budge on. But I want you guys to pay attention, because he's basically going to admit there's no way that they can change this, do a regime change. He basically finally admits it. He says they need it, but as far as the U.S. attempting, or even, talking about it maybe later on down the line, it's not there. The only person that still is speaking regime change is Benjamin Netanyahu. But let's take a listen to Marco Rubio.
You're going to see some efforts over the next few weeks to see if we can't restart talks between the two sides and bring this war to an end. But we also understand that both sides have some pretty strong red lines. And until we can bring those red lines a little closer together, we're not going to be there yet. But we're ready to go. And the president's told his team, if you see an opportunity to...
Bingo. He said it. He's going to say, if you see an opportunity, take it. Again, President Trump, he wants this to be over. He's been wanting it over. I haven't heard him speak on Venezuela, but of course, I mean, not Venezuela, but Cuba, not Cuba. Was it Cuba? His next conquest, or Greenland. I haven't heard him say anything about that. Okay. He definitely wants out of this. He's acting tough when he's on True Social, when he's speaking to the press. But I truly, honestly believe that he's telling them, listen, at any chance or anything that you see that we may be able to make some progress, seize that moment and that opportunity.
Be a force that brings about some momentum behind peace talks. Let's do it.
The regime change has never been the goal, though. As you say, it has been denuclearization. Can you have one without the other, though?
I think the regime has to change. You may not have a regime change, but the regime has to change. The Iranian regime traditionally has been expeditionary. In essence, their view is they don't want to just govern Iran. They want to govern the region. They want to export their revolution. That does have to change. And the only way you're going to change that is if you make the price of it too high for them to be able to pay.
Trump cancels an attack.
You said it has to stop, but nothing has been done. What you mean as far as what, EJ? The threats? You're saying as far as the threats? Okay, guys. Iran was ready. They gave warning for escalation and retaliation. Okay, when Trump threatened Iran, they literally got ready. The foreign minister, Arachi, called Saudi Arabia. He called Turkey. He called Pakistan, basically letting them know what was coming if the U.S. and Israel struck any of their infrastructure. Okay? They basically told them that they will start hitting their neighbors' vital energy sites and go after U.S. military military sites out of the region. So they were willing to extend it even further. They said, if he goes through with this threat and start hitting our infrastructure, we're going to get all the surrounding Gulf countries. Remember, they said that they would set it aflame the entire Middle East. As soon as he notified them, Saudi Arabia got on the phone with President Trump and asked him to hold off.
Attack on Iran's energy sites, saying both sides are close to a new deal. But Tehran says it's ready to strike the Gulf harder than ever after embassies warn Americans to be ready to leave the region. Here's everything you need to know about the past 24 hours. Just a day after threatening to hit Iran at levels of military terror, strength, and power not seen since World War II, the U.S. president now says he's canceled planned attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure after being asked to by Iran and Gulf allies. He also says sketches of a new deal are on the table, but Iranian state media says none of this is true. So are both sides actually talking? In March, Trump vowed to blow up Iran's power plants, an alarming escalation that faced backlash from even his own supporters.
And when I mean that they were calling Trump out, they called him out. I think everyone is sick and tired of this.
But in April, just hours before the U.S. was supposedly going to wipe out Iran's entire civilization, came a ceasefire announcement. This time, Iran went on the offensive. On Saturday, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called his counterparts in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, setting out in clear terms what Iran would do if its infrastructure was targeted. It would go after its neighbors, hitting their vital energy sites. Ibrahim Rezai, a senior lawmaker, said Iran wouldn't restrict itself to the Gulf, but strike U.S. bases outside the region as well. That seems to have prompted a response. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman called Trump, urging him to de-escalate.
Listen, every time President Trump threatens them, they come up with, their counter is insane. Remember, when they threatened to hit Elon Musk sky space businesses and anything he had over there, that stopped. All of a sudden, there was peace. So, listen, they've been pretty calm. They're getting aggressive. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Iran is starting to get very aggressive. Well, let's go.
Saudi Arabia and its neighbors fear the region spiraling out of control. Last week, Riyadh announced a maritime coalition of 14 countries to secure the Bab el-Mandeb Strait after the Houthis in Yemen imposed a sea blockade on its ships in the Red Sea. In northern Iraq, a drone attack near the US-backed Peshmerga 70th Brigade headquarters in Sulaymaniyah sparked a large fire. No one claimed responsibility, but it followed a wave of US-Saudi attacks on pro-Iran militias. So while Trump is talking about a deal, the region appears poised for the opposite. Israeli media reports Washington is sending another 10 aerial refueling jets to Israel. They'll join more than 30 already stationed there. The planes would be critical in any major long-range military operation against Iran, while U.S. embassies across the Middle East have warned Americans to be ready for unforeseen escalation. So is Washington stepping back or buying time? Trump wants to force Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and agree to his terms for a nuclear deal. But the more the negotiations drag, the more pressure he faces to act. Iran is tightening its grip on the strait and escalating pressure on its Gulf neighbors to maintain deterrence against any U.S. escalation. How long can this stalemate continue before something breaks?
And I truly believe that this is going to cause some major issues between the U.S. and our allies because we can't protect them. We just can't. So again, he announced a deal possibly, and that he said that the straits would be open. Iran gave immediate pushback. So they said, no, the straits is not open. We're not talking at all. Well, let's take a listen.
So President Trump just called off the next wave of strikes against Iran because he said we were on the verge of a deal to open the Strait of Hormuz and end the Iranian nuclear program. But Iran responded and said, what are you talking about? So overnight, President Trump said, quote, the USA is locked and loaded and ready to go against the Islamic Republic of Iran at levels of military terror, strength, and power not seen since World War II. Despite this, we have just been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries to hold off any attack and that the perimeters of a deal has been agreed to. This would include the immediate, complete, and total opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. Great. I'll push that button all day. That's a good thing, right? Strait of Hormuz back to what it was before the war started, free and safe passage, no strings attached, and the end of the Iranian nuclear program. Let's do it. That's actually on the path to victory. All right. The problem is Iran, as has been the case over and over and over again, and historically has actually been more accurate than U.S. claims, said,
I want to say this, guys. His credibility is shot. And I think that this was a wake-up call for many that basically support Trump. This right here was the wake-up call.
We're not talking about that at all. Fars news agency said, quote, there is no agreement whatsoever regarding the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and the reports published on the subject are false. As long as the U.S. continues its aggressive actions, the Strait of Hormuz will remain blocked, and the passage of vessels will be possible only on the declared routes and with the permission of the Revolutionary Guard's naval force. I hate this. There's been a
Listen, it is insane when you have to depend on the opposing team or party for the truth. We should not have to look towards Iran for the truth. This is insane.
A lot of awful lies back and forth throughout this conflict, no doubt. And Iran, especially when looking at like battle damage assessments, what they've destroyed, has been wild at times. All right. But when you look at the diplomatic aspect of this war, the negotiations, what's happening, what's on the table, the progress that's been made, historically, Iran's has been closer to reality. So on the U.S. side, we're always on the verge of a major breakthrough, the biggest thing yet to come. We're going to accomplish all of our wartime objectives because Iran is so desperate for a deal. Iran from the get-go has been saying no, 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 no. In fact, they've been adding claims now that they...
Hey, MT, welcome. Thank you for coming in. Make sure y'all hit the like. Hit the like.
will control from here forward the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't like this, but if we look at every one of these claims in terms of negotiations since the start of the war, the Iranian assessment by far and away has been more accurate with where things actually sit today.
It's now being...
And that is insane to me. That we have to look to Iran for the truth is insane. But let's get into... basically, they're basically trying to force the U.S. to withdraw. They're trying to get us to withdraw from Kuwait, Bahrain, and they've been attacking those bases nonstop since they became aggressive. They don't want us in the Gulf at all. Once they force the U.S. out of the surrounding Gulf states, you figure those Gulf states will have no other choice but to accept Iran's dominance over the straits, them controlling the straits. They would have no other choice if they push us out of the Middle East. They know what they're doing. They are very calculating.
Reported that Iran has forced the United States to withdraw from Kuwait and Bahrain following weeks of attacks. After 6 months of war, Iran has effectively seized the operational initiative. The Financial Times reports the U.S. is increasingly fighting at a pace set by Tehran. They've managed to completely fracture the security of historically safe bases. They're targeting U.S. aircraft shelters, satellite communications, and power grids. A professor and policy advisor says they're following a very methodological strategy of forcing the U.S. as far away from Iran as possible, out of the Gulf, Syria, Iraq, and having them hide in Israel and Jordan.
So they're pushing us further and further back. They're basically pushing us out of there.
These attacks are also meant to pressure Arab nations into accepting Iranian domination over Hormuz. But this strategy has broken the U.S. reliance on its classic necklace of vulnerable bases across the Gulf, forcing Washington to shift its personnel and air defenses farther away. The consolidation of these bases has backfired by giving Iranian missile forces a highly concentrated pool of targets. We've seen the direct result of this as well, with several U.S. troops losing their lives recently in Jordan and continued attacks occurring almost every day. As a result of this, hundreds of activists and public figures in...
I can't even remember how many times they've hit Jordan. I mean, I'm thinking maybe over 4 times.
Jordan signed a joint letter explicitly demanding the immediate withdrawal of American forces from their soil.
All right, so this is President Trump. He's basically stating that he was called by Iran and Saudi and others.
By Saudi Arabia, by UAE, by Qatar, and by Iran. We were all set to go just about at this time right now. And I've asked them to come. We're all set to go. But when the allies ask to call it off, we got to sort of say, well, let's see. Well, the reason they asked is they think there's a deal. There's a deal on Hormuz, and then there will be a deal on the nuclear, or you might call it the
I don't understand how does he think or believe that they could put something together within 48 hours after what happened with this MOU?
I call it the demilitarization. Yes, I asked Saudi Arabia, the king. I said, the crown prince. I said, what would you rather do? Would you rather have us do this or not? And they said, we would much prefer a deal as opposed to an attack, because you don't know where these attacks lead. I mean, will they be flooded with people pouring into their country? A disaster. A lot of bad things can happen. Yeah.
We've seen this pattern before with the president. Usually towards the end of the week, before the weekend, we hear threats.
Again, some believe that it's market manipulation. Some feel that he called it off because he knows that this isn't, how unpopular this war is. And some believe it's because we are out of munitions. Like I said, two things can be true at the same time. I think all of the above, to be quite honest with you. But again, the Iranians are becoming more aggressive, and they're causing extensive damage to the U.S.
Potentially more escalation, more attacks. And then if the Iranians don't budge, which they didn't, then by Sunday night, usually sometimes Sunday, comes this sort of backing off and moving towards the deal, which will hopefully impact the market positively. That's one side of this. Then also the other one, big picture, looking at the big picture, and also my view here in Washington, this war has been very unpopular in the U.S. I mean, every poll has shown that the war was popular from the beginning until now. Just last week, the latest poll showed majority of Americans want the war to end now. So the president, the U.S. president.
So MT said, yes, it is market manipulation. You think that is just market manipulation? Before I came on, I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking it's more, it can be all three. It's very unpopular. Nobody, at the end of the day, he would literally have to put boots on the ground. Nobody wants that. Nobody. That is not a guarantee win right there. That is not. And if he put boots on the ground, you best believe that would extend this conflict for a long time. A long time. So, all right, let's go.
The president is continuing something that's unpopular, that's not winnable, and the Iranians have actually gotten more aggressive. They're now trying to escalate even before being attacked in some episodes.
Really quick, I forgot to say this. Please, 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 feel free to chat, even if your opinion is opposing to Matt's. This is a safe space. All opinions will be respected. Okay? You just can't be disrespectful. This is definitely a safe space. You don't have to agree with anything that I may be saying. Again, I say this all the time. You may be able to give me a different outlook and vice versa. So please feel free to chat.
I think what this war really taught the Iranians, or their takeaway, has been that every time they back off, President Trump is just going to move forward. If they don't back up and potentially even escalate, then President Trump will back off. And so this, I think...
Listen, Iran is definitely on the offense. And they're getting more calculating every time.
Seems to be Iran's new doctrine, which has started from the beginning of this war, but it's also escalated more and more, and they're just causing more damage to the U.S. assets, and really escalating also across the region.
It pains me to.
And again, everybody's doubting his announcements. The talks that he's saying that's taking place, it was with Oman and Iran to get the straits back open. It had nothing to do with anything with the U.S.
Say this, Melinda, you should believe the Iranians. There are no, I think, scheduled talks between the U.S. and Iran. At this point, Iran sees no real reason to talk to the U.S. because of the U.S.'s wild sort of swings between different positions. So the only...
And he's going to say it, but Trump was talking to various other countries, and the individuals that he was talking to were mediators like Pakistan, like Qatar, like Turkey, Egypt. He was talking to those mediators. No direct talks with Iran. Hold on, guys.
Yes,
Oh
we are in
no.
favor of a deal, but
It went back. Hold on. Let me speed it up. I'm sorry, guys. I must have clicked it too many times. Hold up. Let me see if I could get it there and not pass it up. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Sorry, guys. All right, let's go. Sorry, guys.
To talk to the U.S. because of the U.S.'s wild sort of swings between different positions. So the only talks, there's two talks going on now. Iran and Oman are talking about how to get the strait reopened. And then there's this ongoing passing of messages between the U.S. on one side and various countries who have tried to play a mediating role, like Pakistan and Qatar and Turkey and Egypt. But direct talks between the U.S. and Iran, I believe Iran, it's not happening anytime soon.
Okay, so Mitch said, but the other reasons are valid as well. I think so too. All right, so he says, at the moment, there are no negotiations with the U.S. The talks are being held with Oman, focusing on reaching an understanding. And guess what? Oman backed out of this. First, they asked them originally. They said no. They went back and they said yes. Then they were added to the MOU. Remember, after the 60 days, it was both Oman and Iran. Okay? Next thing you know, they backed out of it again. So now they're back in talks. I feel like Oman, when it's all said and done, they are going to have to intervene. They are going to be the voice of reason. They're going to have to help put this together. That's just the bottom line. And I'm pretty sure, they're pretty much on the fence about it. They want to, and then there's other reasons why they don't want to. For a minute, they were trying to put together a deal where they could either go on Oman's side or Tehran's side. They said no, because everybody was going to go around and go on the Oman side. They said, we're not doing that. We're not giving up our leverage. They're going to have to come up with something. On a framework to ensure safe maritime navigation through the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz has not been closed due to difference of opinion between Iran and Oman. The situation in the strait has been affected since February 28th. Due to the military aggression by the United States and the Zionist regime. As long as the U.S. hostility actions continue, the maritime blockade of Iran remains in place. U.S. military aggression against Iran and its interests continues. As long as the violations committed by the U.S. during this period continues, with a naturally be no significant change.
جنگ هرمز اتفاق
In the situation of the Straits of Hormuz.
تغییر خاصی نخواهد افتاد.
Over the weekend, President Trump.
All right, listen, guys. They may open. Now, this is what President Trump is putting on the table. If they open the straits, they will then again remove the U.S. blockade and allow them to sell oil. That is what Trump put on the table today. Okay? Let's get into it. At the end of the day, guys, listen, we still got 50,000 U.S. troops deployed over there in the Middle East for a war that was expected to last, what, 6 weeks? We're now at 6 months. 18 service members lost their lives, hundreds wounded, and guess what? Iran's leadership is still empowered, and our allies right now is on pins and needles. Let's go.
Trump threatened major strikes before backing off. He says new talks with Iran start today, but Iran says that's not true. It's all creating a lot of confusion.
Well, President Trump says appeals from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and even Iran persuaded him to give diplomacy another chance after warning of those major strikes on Iranian infrastructure. Now, the president says talks are expected to begin today and will focus on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But Tehran is already challenging that, saying there are no planned discussions with the White House, only talks with Oman.
Usually they say nothing. They don't address it. They just move on. They address this immediately.
The strait cannot be fully reopened while what it calls, quote, U.S. aggression continues. Whatever the case, there's so much at stake here. 50,000 U.S. troops are still deployed in the Middle East for a war that was expected to last no more than 6 weeks and is now in its 6th month. 18 American service members have been killed, hundreds more wounded. Global energy markets remain on edge, and Iran's leadership is firmly in power.
Let me stop this. That is true. David said, remember, the U.S. blockade is also illegal under international law. That is a fact. If you guys can recall, in the beginning, President Trump was trying to run it in conjunction with Iran and charge tolls. I'm like, this cannot be real. This cannot be real.
Even as Iranian civilian and military casualties surge past 3,500. And that is why some Gulf leaders are pushing so hard for diplomacy. They want an end to the war and an end to the instability, fearing another massive U.S. military strike could trigger yet another major escalation across the region. Vlad.
So, Imtiaz, as you know, we've heard these kinds of threats of massive strikes on Iran from the president before.
When I say every media outlet called President Trump out, they called him out.
Social posts, he says that they have perimeters of a deal that have been agreed to. But is this becoming a negotiating tactic? And how is Iran responding to this style of negotiating?
Yeah, it very well may be. But Vlad, you may remember back in April, the president warned Tehran to agree to a ceasefire, or as he put it, quote, a whole civilization will die, only then to extend the deadline, something we also saw back in May.
These tactics are not working. They've never worked. He has to stop. He has to stop threatening Iran. At this point, they don't believe anything that he says, and are not taking him serious at all.
And also in June. Now, I've been speaking to a number of sources inside Iran who tell me that all of this has only reinforced the belief inside the Iranian leadership that President Trump isn't looking for a wider war, but is looking for leverage in negotiations. And so in their calculation, they can continue to absorb the pressure while raising the costs through their proxies and by threats to global shipping until Washington concludes there's just no military way out of this conflict. And so for now, the view from Tehran is,
listen, guys, I've been thinking about this all day. Do you think it will get to a point where we will cut our losses and walk away? If we don't, the only other choice is to, ground troops. I mean, a serious escalation. He has no off-ramp for this. No strategic plan to get out of this at all. And these demands, that's not diplomacy. You say we're talking, but then you threaten them. If you don't do this or if you don't do that, we got to get out of this.
That time is on their side.
It's been revealed tonight, U.S. top military brass.
Now, guys, remember I told you guys in the beginning, we are now crowdsourcing. That's how desperate they are getting. So, the U.S. military is crowdsourcing ideas to deal with Iran. Crowdsourcing is the practice of getting work, ideas, or information from large groups of people, military analysts, and troops. We're crowdsourcing, saying, we don't know what to do. We need help. Take a listen.
Are attempting to crowdsource ideas on how to deal with Iran. CNN has reported that a senior military officer has sent out emails looking for new, creative and unconventional ways to pressure and punish Iran as the conflict enters its 6th month. They have reached out to a broad group of military analysts and troops to see if anyone had any better ideas. Those familiar with the operation have said it's a sign the military is running out of options. Donald Trump has ramped up strikes on the Middle East in recent weeks, which was intended to force Iran to return to the table and make a deal. But so far, this strategy has failed, with the Strait of Hormuz still closed and the conflict threatening to expand.
Listen, they told this man, this is not a good idea. These people have been preparing themselves for over 40-something years, okay? Just like he says, and he's going to say it tonight, how no other president was willing to do this. 40-something years. What do you think that they were doing in this 40-something years? They are used to living up under this pressure, the sanctions.
Banned. Trump is considering whether to intensify the aerial military campaign, potentially launching strikes on Iran's remaining nuclear facilities. But even the head of the military has acknowledged there are limits to airstrikes and that they are unlikely to force Iran to change their stance. This has likely contributed to the military's attempt to broaden their horizons, although whether anyone had any good ideas remains to be seen.
This is insane when they are looking for ideas. Did you guys hear that? Insane. All right, so the GCC, which is the Gulf Cooperation Council, a political, economic, and security alliance, a group of 6 Arab countries, so it would be Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman. They are all now trying to come together to try to figure out how they can get the straits open without firing on ships and free and safe passage through. So they're trying to put something together.
As we move towards this sort of deadline that was set originally on the MOU, as you pointed out, mid-August, what are the options at this point for the GCC? And what is the sort of current impact?
So it's interesting, of course, August and just yesterday was the anniversary of the Kuwait invasion. And so Dr. Anwar and others have been speaking about how the GCC came together when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990 on the 2nd of August. And there's a real sense that, again, collective Gulf security is important for all of these countries. And that's why, as you said, you see a much more coordinated effort of what that looks like.
Okay, David said Iran was waiting ever since the diplomatic imprisonment of U.S. diplomats in 1979. Long time. They've been preparing for this.
Now, what does the GCC want? They want to ensure that there is a decisive end to drones or missiles being lobbed at the Gulf. And that decisive end also has to include no control of the Strait of Hormuz, continuing the free flow of energy, goods, and products. For them, that's hugely important. You mentioned the midterms. Midterms are, of course, on people's minds, of course, oil prices, petrol prices, but also importantly, how President Trump is perceived domestically. But there's also the domestic politics of Iran. And it's clear that the Iranians are divided. There are those that want to instigate more trouble, and there are those that are trying to get to a diplomatic solution. And I think looking at the politics inside of Iran shows that there is misalignment there, and the region is concerned about that. Who do you speak to in Tehran?
Now, this is an issue. This is a fact, and this is going to become and remain an issue. Since the supreme leader was unalived, of course, his son became the new supreme leader. However, he hasn't been seen. We don't even know if he's still alive. Mushkaba. Right now, and I've said this quite a few times, it looks like the IRGC is running the show. So it's like if they put a deal together, who are they putting the deal together with? You understand what I'm saying? So this is going to be a problem down the road.
To make sure that whatever deal is agreed to is actually stuck to. And I think that's one of also the concerns for the Gulf.
So he got so upset, right? He puts another message out there on True Social when people start calling him out about him chickening out, taco, whatever you want to call it, okay? He basically said that they were duplicitous. He said that they begged him to talk, and you know how he does. But anyway, nothing gets through to Iran unless we want it to, and nothing will get through unless a deal or total surrender. You got to be kidding me. These guys are not surrendering. Is accomplished, whether Iran wants to admit it or not. We are, in fact, talking of a solution to a problem that they have caused for decades. It is very simple. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. This right here is the problem. These posts, these threats, this is the problem. All right, let's go, Diamond Gang.
Monday morning here at the White House, and I don't know about you all, but I woke up with plenty of questions this morning, especially after the president said negotiations with Iran were going to be continuing today.
Now again, he offered to reopen the straits, remove the U.S. blockade, and for Iran to allow Iran to sell its oil, okay? Which was what the MOU was, okay? The problem, let's start there. The first violation was the full, they were supposed to do a full withdrawal, Israel. They didn't do that. That was the first violation, okay? And we're going to get into Israel and not Hamas deal, but we're going to get into that because they've been fighting them ever since. But they were supposed to have a full withdrawal. They never did that. Okay. Number two, it said in the MOU that Iran controlled the straits. What happens? A ship was warned. They fired at the ship, and we're here. Okay. So they believe the U.S. said that Iran violated the MOU. It's been violated by both sides so many times. I don't think that they should go back to this MOU. I think that they need to draw up a whole nother plan and start again. Because that MOU, it was just too broad, and it just left too much for each side to interpret whatever they wanted to interpret. It just was not enough.
provided no details. Where are the negotiations going to happen? Who is going to be talking for the U.S.? Are they direct or indirect talks? We simply do not know at this hour. All we know is that the president says the parameters of a deal are in place to reopen the Strait of Hormuz in the U.S. naval blockade, and that a deal is, quote, imminent. We went into the weekend thinking the president may order this massive strike on Iran, but ultimately he spoke to Gulf allies who convinced him not to move ahead.
I was asked to by Saudi Arabia, by UAE, by Qatar, and by Iran. We were all set to go just about at this time right now, and it would have been a massive attack. We were all set to go, but when the allies ask to call it off, you got to sort of say, well, let's see. And the reason they asked is I think there's a deal.
Now, if you have a sense of deja vu, you are not alone. Multiple times since this war began, the president has said he is weighing
Didn't I tell you guys they called his butt out all day yesterday?
massive strikes or delivered some big ultimatum to Iran, ultimately to back off in the end. An official involved with the mediation of these talks says the deal the president has put forward would reopen the strait, would end the U.S. naval blockade, and allow Iran to sell its oil. But all of those issues are things the memorandum of understanding signed back in June were meant to address. The White House says this time is going to be different because the U.S., after nearly two
Listen, he said this time is going to be different because the U.S. has the upper hands based off of that 12 to 13 day bombing campaign. It's so hard sometimes for me to watch some of this stuff. It's just
2 weeks of airstrikes has more leverage. Here's the president.
We were also asked by Iran, very strongly actually. They said we'd like to make a deal. Now, obviously, they don't want to be attacked, and they knew the extent of the attack because they saw it forming. We just see how it is. We're ready to go anytime we want. Would I rather make a deal? I'm not looking to kill people.
So whether negotiations actually do take place.
Let me stop it right here. Okay, so David, you said Israel needs to leave Lebanon. I agree. Again, the MOU said full withdrawal. They put some deal together that wasn't worth anything. It was worthless, just like the MOU, because Israel is going to do what Israel want to do. They don't, Trump has tried to stop them a plethora of times. You said Iran should get reparations. Iran controls Hormuz with Oman, etc. I think when it's all said and done, they will maintain some type of control. The MOU is dead and Americans has no courts. Yeah, I believe that the MOU, they should not even try to implement it because it was just not enough.
Place today is anyone's guess. What we do know is here in D.C., the Senate is about to leave for its month-long August recess with Pentagon funding still hanging in the balance. So whether these negotiations take place could have a major impact on whether the Senate ultimately signs off on this reconciliation 3.0 with billions of dollars for funding the war.
Trump says a deal is imminent. Iran.
Hold on, let me stop it. So MT said, let me jump over to my Rumble side. Because Trump doesn't know how to cut his losses. No, he doesn't. You said it's funny how Trump wants to do what he doesn't want others to do. Yeah. He wants to be a dictator. That's for sure. That is for sure. All right, let's go. Now, this next clip, it is basically about the oil prices. Again, it went down, it dropped 5%. Right after he announced, that he wasn't going to strike. Monday morning, gas prices dropped.
Says it's only talking to all men. So is the ceasefire back on, or is it just a play for oil prices? Here's everything you need to know about the past 24 hours.
And the deal is imminent, having to do with the Hormuz Strait, and also ultimately the denuclearization of that.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington and Tehran are beginning talks on Monday. He says an agreement over the Strait of Hormuz has been reached, with a broader deal to denuclearize Iran potential follow. This comes after 2 weeks of intensified attacks from both sides, derailing the ceasefire that had largely held since an MOU was signed.
Listen, guys, Scott Bassett spoke out. It was quite disturbing, and I do have that clip, but he claims that there may be a deal by Wednesday. I don't think it's going to happen.
And in June, talks between the US and Iran over a permanent deal collapsed over the Strait of Hormuz. The US says it should be reopened without obstruction, while Iran says that it should manage traffic in the strait alongside Oman. So has there now been a breakthrough? Tehran says there are no direct negotiations with Washington. Instead, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says progress has been made with Oman and that any future talks with the US depend on Washington honoring the MOU. While Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baqi says the strait will never return to the pre-war situation.
You heard it. He said never. And I've said that. It will never go back. It won't.
الان مذاکره‌ای با آمریکا نداریم. مذاکرات با عمان هست، متمرکز بر تفاهم بر سر مسیری که تردد ایمن کشتیرانی از تنگه هرمز رو تأمین بکنه.
So if there isn't a new deal with the US, why is Trump claiming there is? If you've been following closely, you'll know we've come to expect a pattern. Tough talk and escalation on the weekends when the markets are closed, then de-escalation just before they reopen on Monday morning. Oil markets are once again reacting to every twist. Brent crude had broken through $100 a barrel again when the ceasefire collapsed, and then began to deflate once fighting died down. Prices dropped more than 5% on Monday after Trump said talks with Tehran were set to begin. For the sake of his economy, Trump needs to keep prices low. For the sake of Iran's leverage over the Strait of Hormuz, that price needs to stay high, even if there is a new deal.
That part, Trump wants it to go down so that, everyone in the U.S. can stop whining. And of course, the Iranians want it to stay high. They want to be able to, they want this war to remain unpopular, okay? For the entire world at this point.
The optimism that came with the last one has now evaporated. And if there was little trust between both sides before, today there's none. Stay with us on Al Jazeera for all your latest updates in the war on Iran.
All right, so President Trump was questioned about the talks. I need you guys to listen up. If you did not see this, again, he insists that he's speaking with Iran. He claims that when they talk, they don't want people to know. It just was a mess. Listen.
Iran now off and our airstrikes?
No, they're on. They're going on right now. It's an amazing thing. We have a little problem with Iran because we have many talks and we'll say we have or we don't have. We're straight about it. But they deny. But they're not denying it now. They just put out a statement not denying it. But for some reason they...
Real quick, EJ, just pay attention to him and pay attention to what he says. This reminds me of someone, and I think you know who I'm talking about.
When they're talking, they don't like saying that they're talking. So I say, wait, we're in talks. Big deal. We're in talks. And they'll sometimes deny it, even though they spend hours and hours together talking. No, the talks are going along. We're going to hit them very hard yesterday. Very, very hard. Harder than any attack. I think I can say, General, from a point of knowledge, any attack since World War II. That's pretty big. And we were set to go, and they called. And in addition, Saudi Arabia called, and UAE called, Qatar called. Got calls from numerous people. I don't want to use the word begging, but some were. In particular, Iran did not want to be hit. And they said, we want to talk. We want to talk about the strait, but more importantly, from my standpoint, we want to talk about the denuclearization of Iran, because it's what it's all about. This is why I'm doing this. And it should have been done. It's now 50 years. We keep saying 47 years, but 3 years have gone by. But it's for 50 years that other presidents should have been doing or other countries. Didn't have to be us.
The reason why past administrations did not do this, including you at the time that you told them no, is because of what's going on right now. These are considered forever wars, especially when you go in thinking regime changed. Again, and I will say this over and over, he was duped. He got duped by Benjamin Netanyahu. He got duped by his friend Lindsey Graham. He got duped by Kushner and Witkoff, whoever was in that room with him, and told him that this was a good idea.
But other countries, and nobody did it. And it was time, and we hit them hard with the B-2s more than a year ago now, and that knocked out their capability, their potential capability. We've done a great job. But when we talk, we say we're talking. If we're not talking, when you ask me, no, we're not talking, I'll say it. But we are talking right now. We're talking, and we're talking at the request of Iran, backed by Saudi Arabia, backed by UAE, and backed by Qatar. And
he's talking to mediators. He's not talking directly to Iran.
In particular, but others also. Many countries called. The leaders of many are friendly with a lot of them.
This is a wake-up call for anybody that supports him right now. I know that they gotta be fed up.
Almost all of them, one way or the other, and they all wanted to give this a last chance. This is a last chance. This is not something that, if it doesn't happen, this is a last chance for them to sign a good document.
Where are the Iran talks, and what are your requirements
We'll find
right
out
now?
today or tomorrow. I mean, they're going to go quickly, one way or the other. It's not very complex. We're talking about the Strait, the opening of the Strait, having it open literally by tomorrow, completely open. And that's phase one. And phase two is we then will talk about the nuclear capacity, the nuclear, as we've been mentioned. That basically, it's, I think, the denuclearization of Iran has to happen. And that'll be the second phase. But the first phase is the opening of the Strait.
And you know what was so disturbing, guys, and they talked about this today a lot, about him basically saying this is their last chance before decapitation. Like, this has got to stop.
The second phase will be the denuclearization, and that'll take a little while. But we're very strong on it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and I've never changed. And yeah, please.
Fifth time you turned off airstrikes against Iran since April to negotiate. What is your message to the American people who are wondering what has changed this time? Why should it be anything?
Well, you don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to maybe get something, but I want to give them every last chance before decapitation. Very tough.
You guys heard it. Another threat.
To do what we have planned, still planned. We'll see what happens. But it's a very, very tough thing to do. I think I'm very proud of the fact that I'll give people a chance. This is a big move. To do an attack that big on a country.
At this point, he's backed in a corner. He has no strategic way to get out. And we're out of munitions. That's the truth.
I'd rather not do it. Now, we've already through lots of large attacks, but they were normal large. Hopefully they'll come to their senses, because what happened, cannot have a nuclear weapon, but hopefully they'll come to their senses. So they called me and they said, please don't attack. We'll make a deal. That's the real truth.
Please don't attack me. We want to make a deal. Guys, do you believe it?
And everyone knows it. And who wouldn't call? And they found out through leaks and sleazebags, a lot of sleazebags, leakers. Leakers should be put in jail. They have to strengthen up the law.
This is exactly why we cannot get Iran to the table. This type of talk, this type of rhetoric, this is why. Guys, get ready, because this is going to be going on for a while. For him to believe that they can come up with the deal to get the straits open and to start talking about the enriched uranium and that it'll be signed, sealed, and delivered within about 48 hours is insane and highly unlikely.
Was for leakers. But in this case, leakers helped because they said the severity of the attack. And Iran knew it. They knew what was coming. It was going to come last night, and it would have gone on for a long time, and there'd be essentially very little left. There'd be nothing left. And
What's up, Sass? Thank you for coming through.
if I'm given a chance to let a lot of people live, I want to give that chance. So I'm under no time constraint.
The president saying that he called.
Listen, guys, you heard it. Decapitation. So he's back with the threats. And what's going to take place and what's going to happen, I say give it it won't even last until the end of the week. This is not going anywhere. This is wash, rinse, and repeat. This is not going anywhere. And I'll be surprised if the Straits is open. I'll be super surprised.
Off what would have been the largest military attack since World War II after Gulf allies told him they had reached what he described as the perimeters of a deal with Iran. President Trump said the agreement would include an immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran, though, countering the president's claims. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry saying this morning that they are not currently negotiating with the United States and that their only negotiations are with Oman to establish a safe shipping route through the strait. The president then this afternoon pushed back on that. He said on Truth Social that talks have begun, that more are scheduled in the immediate future, and that whether Iran wants to admit it or not.
Again, guys, I guarantee you, when it's all said and done, Oman will have to get involved and stay involved. Even though they've been back and forth, off and on, hot and cold. They're going to be the voice of reason. They're going to be the middleman. It's going to happen. Mark my words.
We are, in fact, talking of a solution to a problem that they have caused for decades, a reference there to Iran's nuclear program. And Kelly, if any of this sounds familiar, we have been here before. The president claiming that Iran has agreed to demands, Iran denying that, and of course, no deal in hand as of yet. CBS News also reporting earlier this hour that despite the president's most recent comments, U.S. officials say no new negotiations have been planned.
We're in talks with the Iranians, and I think there is.
Hold on, let me stop it. That's Scott Bessett. They asked him today. Guys, y'all know how I do it. I always start 24 to 48 hours back, and then I work my way up to what's going on in real time. We're just about there. You said Trump has no idea what a war really is or what having the upper hand means. Mitch said that, MT, on the Rumble side. I agree. I definitely agree with that. I don't know. I don't know. This is getting quite scary. But I truly do believe if Oman intervened and put something together with Iran, they could get the straits back open. As far as tolls, it's going to be what it's going to be. But I would prefer to see the straits open and oil flowing versus, what's going on right now. But you know what? Iran may go for it. He said that he would remove the U.S. blockade and allow them to sell oil. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, they asked Scott Bessett about a deal. Listen to what he has to say. He doesn't sound too sure at all. He sounds as confused as I am right now about what's going on.
The chance we may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and it move towards a more normalized position in this conflict.
Just to clarify on that, Mr. Secretary, the idea of having a deal today or tomorrow to reopen the strait, would that be reopening the strait, but the Iranians somehow having the ability to charge a toll on that? Or would that be reopening the strait and it's free and clear and anybody can move through?
I think it would be freedom of movement. And even though things are still a little dicey there over the past few days, we've saw.
He said, "I think, guys, I think it will be free."
Quite a few ships coming out.
That answer proves that they're not talking directly to anybody.
Even now, so I'd expect the energy prices to settle back down, which, as I said, will be good for the entire world.
Hey, an update on the U.S.-Iran talk.
Now, guys, Qatar, and I do have it, they confirmed that the U.S. and Iran are having indirect talks, meaning they're passing notes through mediators like Pakistan, Qatar. He never spoke to Iran directly. I repeat. Okay, let's go.
While Iran has said they are not engaged in any negotiations with the United States, Qatar, one of the major mediators here, confirms that there are indirect talks taking place.
Can confirm that the efforts are still ongoing with
Now, this is Qatar speaking.
With all the parties. Focus right now is on avoiding escalation, reopening the strait, and reopening the door for diplomacy. Our focus right now is on avoiding escalation, reopening the strait, and reopening the door for diplomacy between the parties. What we do not want to see right now is a major escalation.
He said between the parties. So he just told it right there. They're passing notes through, through Qatar. They're trying to mediate. That's it. That's all. He's not having direct talks with Iran.
In our region, as the events were leading towards that direction. So we are working very closely with our partners in the region and with the parties of the conflict to reach a diplomatic resolution, whether it be short-term or mid-term, that would lead us towards avoiding any major escalation. So the focus right now is on finding a short-term resolution that would help us reignite the talks and go back to the mediation efforts in its totality and go back to the talks. Right now, we don't have anything on the books when it comes to direct talks, of course.
Right now, we don't have anything on the books when it comes to direct talks. So he just put it out there. He just debunked what President Trump said. This got to stop. We're not going to get anywhere, and we'll stay right where we are for a long time.
Doing our job as mediators, along with Oman and the other mediators and Pakistan and everybody in the region, in exchanging ideas between parties. But we are hopeful that if we can get a resumption of the talks anytime soon, we'd be able to push forward towards a major deal.
And guys, remember, I just played y'all a clip when he said all the parties. That is the GCC, the Gulf Corporation Council. They're trying to just help out and throw ideas. Okay?
That would help us walk back into a situation of peace in our region.
Now, listen to Rubio. He said the straits are open, but not final yet. About 4 ships got through today. Do y'all call that opened? That's not opened. Let's go.
There are ships moving through the straits. There's oil moving right now through the straits. So the straits are open. Nonetheless, I think that there's a conversation and a negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term as we move towards these longer term talks about denuclearization. And suffice it to say there's been progress made in those talks, but not finality yet. We're hoping that will happen very shortly.
Sorry, I said that there were 4 ships. It was a total. I just found out 6 ships went through yesterday. So would you consider that open when pre-war it was over 100 ships getting through a day? Like they're gassing it up. They're gassing it up. Okay, guys, hold on. So this is the senior advisor to the Supreme Leader. And they basically said, no, they are not going to allow a second corridor, which means Oman, they're not going for that. They tried to put that on the table before, and Iran said no. Well, guess what? They said no again today. They're not doing it. We will by no means allow a second corridor. In the Straits of Hormuz, we won't allow the second corridor to open. Even if they deploy warships, we will target them. Does it sound like they're talking? Okay. Y'all know I like to hear all sides, so I'm going to bring it.
Hey, this is breaking news. Reuters is out with an exclusive report.
Now, Diamond Gang, okay, we are about to get into the long-range missiles. They're precision missiles at that, okay? It has been said that the U.S. military has used virtually all of its long-range missiles against Iran. And guess how much these missiles go for? $1 million a piece. Okay? We have less than half of our global Tomahawk supply, too. So we're running low. And he's talking so tough. And we don't have it like that. We don't have it. But let's listen.
Saying that the United States has burned through virtually all of their long-range precision missiles. There have been concerns for months on end about ammunition stockpiles that the U.S. has, particularly when it comes.
Listen, I told you guys 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we was running low.
To air defense systems and interceptors, but now, according to Reuters, there are concerns about long-range missile capabilities. The White House was asked about this and released a statement saying that they didn't have any concerns about this and that they have more munitions than anyone in the world.
The United States has used up virtually all of its long-range missiles in this conflict with Iran that cost over $1 million each, according to a new report from Reuters. Not the headline we want to be seen in the middle of a conflict with this war in Iran, but the U.S. Army has used up much of its stockpile of highly accurate long-range missiles. This is raising major concerns about the military's defensive readiness. Virtually all of the PRSM and ATACM munitions have been used. These are the longer range, highly precise missiles that they use so that they do not have to get close to the combat zone. It's to keep our troops safe. What's even crazier is they're saying the U.S. has also burned through a little less than half of its global Tomahawk supply. The concern is, what if another conflict erupts? What if China decides to take Taiwan and we're obligated to defend? How is that going to work? So what does this mean for ongoing military?
Listen, I said we cannot afford to get into another conflict with anybody else. And again, where is Israel? What are you guys doing? I bet you they're stocked.
Operations in Iran? Well, it means that Trump, should he choose to do strikes larger than World War II, like he said, they will be more riskier and will rely on piloted bombing missions if he relaunches any of these large-scale attacks, which means more military service members' lives at risk. What's interesting is the Reuters sources failed to say how many of each munition the U.S. had left, but I'm sure that's due to a national security concern. We cannot let our adversaries know exactly what we have left. This comes as just 3 days ago, a U.S. general wrote a letter to the Pentagon warning that he lacks sufficient forces to defend Israel from Iranian attacks. And it seems that this is largely due to the shortage of munitions, and said that he cannot.
Listen, Diamond Gang, it seems like all of our allies are out there vulnerable. This is not good.
Not do so without another destroyer. So he's asking for help and said that he will have to choose between the homeland and Israel, and he will choose the homeland should they need to conduct defensive capabilities. And so today you have Scott Bessent out there saying that there should be a deal, a ceasefire, and the Strait of Hormuz reopening today or tomorrow. You have Trump saying the same thing. The whole administration is starting to say this. And we know why this is the case, because they cannot conduct the military operation they have threatened. That's what it all points to. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word.
And what's so crazy is now Iran knows this. They know.
Follow along for more, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
The United States military is running out of weapons in Iran, and a new report from Reuters has confirmed that the U.S. military has used, quote, virtually all of its precision strike missiles during the war so far. Stockpiles on these missiles and precision strike missiles are almost depleted. The United States military has used about half of its Tomahawk missiles as well. Right now, the United States military is running out of weapons in Iran. And it's part of the driving force for why Trump continues to threaten Iran, say we're going to decimate Iran, and then every single time walk back that claim. Because internal discussions are very tense. The US military is not producing enough weapons to maintain its munition stockpile. But there is a bigger issue here. Let's say we get involved.
What's so crazy is that some of those munitions can take up to 5 years. Remember the last live stream I showed you guys, Pete Hegseth, he couldn't even come up with the cost, how long. He said, first you said it would take us a couple of months to replenish, and now you're talking years. So this is insane. But let's go.
Another war while we are running out of weapons in the Iran war. Question is, what happens then?
We
don't have the weapons to do it. Major updates. Spread the word. Follow along, stay up to date.
But I've said this a while back when he was talking about taking Cuba. And I'm like, we're over here. Our stockpile is running low. And you're talking about taking over Cuba and doing all of this crazy stuff. Oh, as we leave from Iran, we're going to make a stop, in Cuba. How? I said this 2 months ago when he first brought up the thought of Cuba. This is nothing new about this stockpile, guys. If you've been watching me, you know. We talked about this months ago.
On all the news you need to know about, more to come soon.
Donald Trump tried to cover this up, and now it just got...
Sorry, Diamond Gang. All right, now we're going to segue into when he did this last strike, when he went jointly with Saudi Arabia, a 2,000-pound bomb actually hit a home in Iran, unaliving 3. Okay? This was last week during the retaliation. Get back. We're going to get you for the sneak attack. Yes. Let's hear it.
Exposed. Visuals suggest that the United States dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on a home in Iran, killing a family of 3. The U.S. struck this family home in Iran on Thursday, according to an analysis of videos, photos, and satellite imagery by weapons experts and the New York Times. Iranian officials said the strike had killed a husband, a wife, and their 2-year-old son. Thankfully, the couple's 2 other children were pulled from the rubble alive. The size of the crater and munition fragments appear to show the weapon used was a 2,000-pound bomb called a Mark 84. One of the largest conventional bombs used by the U.S. military. The location and the time of the strike are consistent with where and when the United States was operating, and the strike hit a densely populated neighborhood on the island in Iran. And also, the Times found no indication of a military site near the family's home or any reports of military casualties.
And that's what they said. They said they hit military sites to diminish their capabilities. That is what the U.S. said.
From the strike. So they just bombed this house for no reason. And here's the crater that's in the video, and here's the neighborhood. That is the approximate location of the bomb. And there's no military locations here. They just bombed a neighborhood. Look, this story needs to be everywhere. Whether you're sharing this video or sharing this great New York Times article.
Hey, Kamiko, thank you for stopping through. Thank you.
People need to see what Donald Trump is doing in Iran because it is horrific and he doesn't want you to know about it. It's an active cover-up.
When asked... All right, guys, you're not going to believe this, okay? Guys, when I get towards the end of the live, I do just a couple little brief things. I'll talk about it. But the Republicans, on a recent poll, they are leading, okay? Who has a better approach to the Iran war? The Republicans is at 32, Democrats is at 30. Neither is at 22% and 15 at not sure. I thought the tides had changed. Now, this was yesterday or Sunday, okay? It could be different, but believe it or not, they say Trump and the Republicans can.
Who has the better approach to Iran? 32% say Trump and the GOP. Only 30% say the Democrats. So we are in this thing Do Democrats need to offer an affirmative vision for ending it?
Well, I don't think it's the president's vision. Here's a guy who got us into this without a strategic goal, without a plan, without a timeline. He's got a Secretary of Defense that doesn't know how to manage this war, who decided a good metric at the beginning was just to drop as many munitions.
And you know what, guys? I think when it's all said and done, Pete Hegseth could potentially lose his job, to be quite serious. We talked about this the last live stream, that he was not basically telling President Trump certain things and hid a lot of the things that was going on. It's not looking good for Pete Hegseth. But you know, when it happens, I'm going to cover it.
As he could on as many targets.
Yeah.
And now we've got a munitions shortage. Big surprise. So they're flailing. They're stuck. They're responsible for this. And the president is the one that has to try to figure out a way out of this. I would suggest to him, though, that the solution is not to do the same thing that he's been doing, not to have his real estate buddy and his son-in-law in charge of a negotiation, to put some people in here that know how to do this, how to talk to the Iranians.
And I've said that as well. I said they're not qualified to handle any type of negotiations, nor does the Iranians trust them. I couldn't believe that.
And put a coalition together, bring our allies back together. He's alienated not only our GCC allies, but our European allies as well. And it's just making this much harder for him to figure out a way out.
And I told you guys that when it's all said and done, we will have a nasty stain on us as a country, and our allies won't be our allies when it's all said and done. All right, guys, real quick, I'm going to give y'all a quick update on Israel and Hamas. The IDF struck 5 sites and more. So this deal that they were so proud of, what was that, Friday? It's not going too well.
What's happening with President Trump's so-called historic agreement between Israel and Hamas for peace and security? Well, last Thursday, he said that Hamas would disarm completely and that Israel's military would pull out of the...
Remember, guys, everybody agreed except for Israel. Remember, President Trump was so proud and happy. They said, okay, we will disarm when Israel make a full withdrawal. The only individuals or groups that didn't speak out was Israel. And this is why. I said Israel was going to be a problem.
Gaza Strip. But the next day, a Hamas official said the group would not disarm until Israel withdrew. And then on Saturday, the IDF started striking the Gaza Strip. It hit 5 sites it said were Hamas weapon sites. This crater was the result of one of those strikes, but a doctor said that it was actually a warehouse for medical supplies. And then on Sunday...
Did y'all hear that? A warehouse for medical supplies. Insane.
Israel launched more strikes up and down the strip, from Gaza City to Deir al-Balah to Khan Yunis in the south, and now more than 24 people have been killed. Local reports say 4 children and 2 women were among the dead, along with a Hamas commander and his wife. Today, a senior Israeli political source told CBS News that Israel will not retreat in the Gaza Strip. A senior Hamas official, for their part, said Israel is trying to undermine efforts aimed at ending the war. At least one...
You hear it, undermined efforts at ending the war, just like they undermined efforts to end this one, okay? There has been so many countless times where President Trump has told him to stand down and he did not. So, look what happened to Trump's beautiful deal. It is destroyed.
1,230 people have died in Israeli military strikes since October 2025. That's when the ceasefire first came into effect. The UN says at least 265 of those were children. Israel's military says 4 of its soldiers were killed in the same time frame.
Some analysts are calling...
All right, this is the last part of the live stream. We're going to talk about the Iranian hackers in our water.
it one of the most serious cyber attacks on water systems in the United States in years. And while U.S. and state officials are treating Iran as one of the suspects, President Donald Trump is trying to place blame on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Meanwhile, it didn't just affect, it affected 7 states. This is insane. But he's blaming Walz. But let's go.
Who's behind it? Minnesota, because they're grossly incompetent. I think the governor's behind it. I don't think there was an Iranian cyber attack.
It's important to note that there is no basis for claiming Minnesota or Walz, the Democratic vice presidential candidate in 2024 and a vocal Trump critic, is, quote, behind it. According to a memo distributed by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and obtained by CNN, the first public sign of the cyber attacks came from Minnesota authorities who said hackers targeted about 30 water systems in the state and that the likely desired impact of the intrusion at the water facilities was to cause loss of system pressure and subsequent potential contamination of water supply. The FBI and the EPA released a statement saying that utility companies in at least 7 states have reported incidents. Trump made no mention of the other 6 governors. Walz did respond in a series of posts on.
So you guys heard that he made no response to the other 6 governors, but he said it was Walz's fault.
Social media, writing in one, Trump knows exactly who is responsible for this attack and knows that other states were hit too. This is what modern warfare looks like, and it further illustrates there's no plan to win a war with Iran.
This is exactly what intelligence officials feared would happen from the moment the U.S. began its buildup of forces.
Again, 7 states was targeted
Near Iran. And now federal officials have gone so far as to warn local leaders in Minnesota about Iran's possible involvement in these cyber attacks targeting water and wastewater utilities. Sources told ABC News Iran is the prime suspect because the attacks align with Iran's capabilities, and there appears.
You said could be North Korea, as they have the hacking teams. Oh, yeah, they are Iranian allies, but I never thought of that. That's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility.
There's to be no ransom demand or other financial motive that you might see if this was the work of criminal actors. The hackers break in, they change passwords, blinding the utilities, leading to loss of control over systems and equipment. In some cases, water pressure drops, potentially allowing untreated groundwater to seep into pipes. In other cases, hackers disabled alarms, allowing wastewater systems to enter unsafe conditions without anyone knowing, George.
Yeah, there's no evidence yet that the water is unsafe, but what are the state officials doing?
Yeah, right now the FBI and the EPA are actively warning state officials in at least 7 states, and it could grow beyond that, George, to disconnect their systems from the internet, or at least use a system that has some kind of a breaker.
And guys, this is just the beginning. It's not going to stop with just the water companies.
Also urging utilities.
If you guys can recall, remember they hacked into Patel's stuff first.
How to figure out how to revert to manual controls in the event that automated systems are somehow compromised. Security and intelligence officials have been warning this is exactly how Iran would retaliate, that Iran poses just this kind of threat not only to water systems, but to other critical infrastructures. But the priority now is safeguarding the water supply as the war in Iran is well into its 6th month.
The FBI warned cyber actors are attacking water utilities in at least 7 states. CBS is reporting that U.S. officials are probing to determine whether it's Iranian hackers behind it. They've done something similar back in 2023. President Trump was asked, and here's what he said.
You know who's behind it? Minnesota, because they're grossly incompetent. I think the governor's behind it. I don't think there was an Iranian cyber attack.
I know it takes a while to officially attribute an attack, but has Congress at least been told which states are impacted? Is Ohio? And is this an attack on U.S. soil amid a war?
Well, we certainly have not been informed at this time, but I think you've correctly pointed out, Margaret, that Iran has attacked our critical infrastructure previously.
So it just seems like right now they're not quite sure. I'm gonna be watching this closely.
been reports, obviously, of China hacking and Russia hacking. Well, one thing that we have to acknowledge is that our adversaries, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, look at the critical infrastructure that support
David, you just said it. You just said it.
our civilian infrastructure, like water, are seen as valid military targets by our adversaries. And so these need to be monitored. They need to be hardened. These are things that we do not do, we would not do. And Iran certainly has been doing this well before this conflict. And this is something we certainly need to be aware of.
We're at
and we
war
need to
now,
be diligent. Well, we're certainly in a conflict where we would expect that they would continue that which they were doing to us before.
That's not, I'm going to tell you guys right now, that won't be the last of it. I believe that it will be they'll target other targets, hack other systems. Guys, I want to thank you, everybody that showed up, showed out, hit that like button. I will be live, but it's not going to be on this. At this point, it's what's going on. It's just not breaking news anymore. Again, he's been doing this since the start. The threats, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. Now, if there is a major escalation, I will make sure that I cover, but I haven't been live for 3 days because it's basically, it's the same. You know what I mean? So I will be live. It'll be on a political topic. It may not be the war. It may be, depending on, what happens. Because again, they claim that they're in talks. So, and I would be happy to report good news, especially if they get the straits open. But I'll see what's going on. I'm just not quite sure what I want to cover next. There's a lot of things going on. So, but I will be live. It just may not be on the war. I'm getting kind of burnt out. It's like this, it's the same. He threatens, he calls it right before markets opens, and I'm just over it. I'm over it. So, but keep your notifications on. Again, the great spills the tea. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. For Rumble, please hit that follow button. I have the great spills the tea. I also have the great reactions where I react to viral moments. And I just started a new channel, which is the Great Political Rants, where I basically upload different political rants and debates. Okay. Let me take a look at some of y'all comments. MT said, in a case like this, it looks like the game is to deplete all American munitions and then launch a false assault. You think so? You think so? Let me see. Let me read a couple more comments before I get up out of here. Would you say, okay, Yolanda, I'm just like, you know what? I said, I haven't been live in a couple days. I need to go live. And I'm watching and I'm watching. And I'm like, okay, this again? Not this again. So, but nothing really exciting, has taken place. And I guess that's a good thing, I would hate to see, an escalation. But I would love to see a deal put in place. I truly believe that they need to go back to the drawing board, tear up the MOU. It wasn't even worth the paper it was written on. And start over, and give diplomacy a chance. Stop the threats. It's not working. So, and of course, we don't have any choice but to stop the bombing campaigns because we don't have it. So it's going to be interesting. You think it was? I thought it was a kind of boring live because nothing was going on. I appreciate you, EJ. You know that. But I will definitely keep my eyes out there and ears, and I'll be watching and listening. But I'll definitely be going live tomorrow. But I just don't know what. But it'll definitely, like I said, be political. All my live streams from here on out will be political topics. That's how I'm able to separate those subscribers and followers that like celebrity gossip. They have their own section, you know what I mean, uploads and shorts. And then those that want to hear political topics, it will just be strictly live streams. So, and I don't want to separate it. I don't want to start combining the two. I like it like that. So, but make sure y'all subscribe to that. If you're on Rumble, my Rumble family, subscribe to that, The Great Political Rants. This is stuff that I would not necessarily bring to a live stream because, YouTube is kind of strict. So these are the type of rants that I can't, play. So make sure you guys subscribe. But I want to say shouts out to you, David. Thank you. He's in the UK, right? So we're on different time zones. So I appreciate every time you show up and show out. Thank you, EJ, for being here. Kamiko, thank you for stopping through. Says, thank you for stopping through. Listen, replay gang, hit that like. Hit the like. And again, if you would like to support the channel, $ The Great Spills the Tea. You can also support me, super chat, super sticker, or on Rumble, a rant. Also, hit that like. That is support too. Hit that like. All right, everybody, have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Keep y'all notifications on, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
It's your under the breeze. Sip with me. I'll pour it.
Hold on, let me stop it real quick. I forgot to tell my guy, Mitch, who is on, he's a moderator over here on YouTube. He's a moderator over there on Rumble. Good night, Mitch. Shouts out to you too. I can't forget about Mitch over there. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with these comments, guys. So please forgive me. All right, good night.
It's your under the breeze. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling his tea, spilling and sipping his tea, spilling and sipping his tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under the degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea. Sip this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your under the degree, shining bright, set the stage. Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea. Sip with me, spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea, spilling this tea.